Changes to the state constitution must pass in 2 consecutive sessions in the legislature before being added to a statewide ballot. Republicans have until January 21st to approve it for the second time for inclusion on the April ballot. The change to the state constitution would make it nearly impossible for those challenging the law in the court system to find success. I'm Lisa Hale, 97.9 WGBW News. For news anytime, log on to WGBW.FM.
The Bucks kick the Spurs. Hi, I'm Mike Clemens with sports. The Bucks with a dominating 121-105 victory over the San Antonio Spurs. Doc Rivers on how he thought his team played defensively.
I loved it. I told him that at halftime. It's like, guys, back-to-back games, our defensive focus and attention to detail was on point. And when we play like that, we're really tough. Because if we get multiple misses, we're going to eventually make threes.
College hoops, the Wisconsin Badgers will try to extend their 4-game winning streak when they host the Minnesota Gophers. That's tomorrow night, 6 p.m. at the Kohl Center in Madison. NFL, Packers holding practice, getting ready to face the Eagles. Sunday afternoon at 3:30, Jaden Reed says it's too soon for the Packers season to be over just yet.
We ain't worked this hard to come this far. You know, we went through a lot, in camp, through the season to even get here. So our mindset is on one goal, and, that's how we're preparing this week.
That's Packers wide receiver Jaden Reed. With sports, I'm Mike Clemens.
Enjoying this local program? Find the complete Civic Media lineup at civicmedia.us or the Civic Media app.
I'm meteorologist Mace Michaels. Cloudy tonight with scattered flurries and snow showers. Lows upper teens. A mix of sun and clouds for tomorrow. Highs upper 20s. Dry Saturday, more snow possible late Saturday night and Sunday. Weekend highs in the mid to upper 20s. Currently it's 26.
There was a time when barbecue was perfect. A strong, reliable flavor that could be counted on. But then big manufacturers decided that barbecue needed to be zesty or spicy or sweeter or whatever. If you miss the good old days of great tasting barbecue, we'd like to introduce you to Grandpa's Barbecue. Made in small batches from Grandpa's original recipe. Buy yours online today at grandpasbarbecueshop.com.
The Todd Alba Show.
Donald J. Trump has been officially certified the winner of the 2024 election the way that the Constitution dictates. You see how simple that is? There's a vote, you certify the results, democracy moves on. You might not like the results. The person I wanted to have elected didn't win, but that's the way democracy works. Unlike 4 years ago on January 6th, where rioters stormed the Capitol.
The Todd Alba Show. Weekdays noon till 2 on your local Civic Media radio station and on the app. Todd Alba.
Hey, everybody, join us next time. Big show. Former Wisconsin Badger Brady Ewing on the program, as well as Wisconsin Lieutenant Governor Sarah Rodriguez. Join us.
Broadcasting live from the Civic Media Studios in Green Bay, this is Night Light with Pete Schwaba, your inside source on everything entertainment from Wisconsin to Hollywood.
Whatever gets you through the night, it's all right.
And now, a guy whose house has an actual wiggle room, Pete Schwaba.
Let's light it up. The kidding around is pretty much over, ladies and gentlemen. We are going to light this night right here, right now, on Civic Media. I am Pete Schwaba, your host of Night Light. So great to have you with me tonight, wherever you are joining us from in the great state of Wisconsin. We are broadcasting statewide from beautiful downtown Green Bay at City Deck Landing. Hope you're having a great day. So much going on. I feel like this is like a night where, if I could toot my own horn, we need Night Light tonight. There's fires. There's a lot of political polarization. There's a lot of uncertainty. But this fire stuff, I have to tell you, I've been watching. A couple days ago, I talked about all the zombie films I watched. And, I had my dose of the apocalypse over the holidays. And now watching these fires and the filming that people are sharing online, it looks apocalyptic. It is so horrible. And it's taking the fun out of good zombie movies for me. So I hope if you are listening in California, I know a lot of us have loved ones or friends out there. I hope they are remaining safe and have gotten to a safe area. It's just devastating to see the damage. So hopefully, with that said, we are going to move forward tonight talking about the things that bring us together and the things that take our mind off the stress of the day. We'll leave that behind and talk about movies and TV and comedy. Tonight on the show, we have a nice assortment of entertainment to discuss. I'm very excited because our friend Greg Bach will be here at 6:35. He's going to make our popcorn pick of the week. So we'll talk to Greg. He's the co-host of Matinee on Air and a very funny comedian who is one of the co-owners of the Laughing Tap in Milwaukee. So Greg has got his finger on the pulse of all things comedy, all things current events. It'll be great to talk to Greg at 6:30. They were nice enough to welcome me on to Matinee on Air just a couple weeks ago. Always fun to talk to those guys, and it's great to have Greg on Nightlight. And then at 7:05, Civic Media Sports Authority, Mike Clemens joins us. We'll have some Packer talk with Mike. Maybe we'll go into the Bucs. The Bucs won, right, Conrad? And I see they just got a one. You don't care. You're a Phoenix Suns fan anyway. But
I still keep my finger on the pulse, as you say.
That's how I am too. I mean, I really don't have. I'm one of those people that I don't hate other sports teams because it's like Jerry Seinfeld said, this team wears this colors, this team wears these colors. You're rooting for laundry. So I have my teams, but I don't hate their adversaries, So I'm kind of with you there. And I like to see, just because I live here, it's more fun when your teams win. So the Bucs, hopefully they're turning it around. Were they still middle of the pack? Or they?
No, they now have a winning record.
Okay.
And at the beginning of the season, they started 1-9 or something like that, I
believe.
Brutal. But yeah, they turned it around. They won the NBA Cup.
Yeah.
Which is pretty cool, too.
That is. All right, so that's good to see, too. We'll talk some Packers and Bucs with Mike at 7:05. And then there's a really cool event happening here in Wisconsin, a poetry event happening January 9th. And our friend James Roberts, who was on the show last year at this time, that was the first time we had talked to James, who reached out to discuss his Winter Festival of Poetry that's happening here in Wisconsin. James is the Regional Vice President of the Wisconsin Fellowship of Poets. The event is January 19th, and we will talk to James about the event. You might be surprised. I know a lot of people don't read poetry nowadays. I was an English major. I read my share of it when I was younger, and I still read it periodically, but not as much as I probably should because I do enjoy reading it. But James has a great interview, and he's got some neat things to say about poetry, and this event is really cool, too. So stick around for that. We are covering all kinds of entertainment tonight, from popcorn picks of the week and comedy to sports to poetry. That's a full show, Conrad.
Yes, it
You're
is.
going to be exhausted when this is over. And, we had Mike Siegel on last night. He hosts the Travel Tales podcast. We had Jimmy Pardo on a couple weeks ago, who has a wildly popular podcast as well called Never Not Funny. I don't approve of the double negatives, but I do like the title. It got me thinking, and I listen to sports podcasts, some showbiz podcasts. I am absorbed with showbiz typically throughout the day in my other gig as a writer and trying to get projects going, and with this radio show. So I tend to, when I listen to podcasts, I go for some escapism. So I usually will listen to sports or some comedy that my friends put out there. So that brings us, ladies and gentlemen, to tonight's question of the night.
Let's talk about the question.
Okay, question.
Question.
Pregunta.
Question.
Question.
Okay, I have a question. Questions?
This question.
Domanda. Question.
Question.
Questions.
What is your favorite podcast? And I think I wasn't late to the party, but I think I'm really behind on podcasts because I only listen to them when I'm working out or driving. Some people, it's their new TV or movies. I cannot believe how many podcasts people I talk to on a daily basis listen to. Cooking, travel, all kinds of stuff. I mean, so I admit I'm behind when it comes to finding trendy podcasts. So I want to know what people are listening to. What is your favorite podcast? 855-752-4842, 855-75-CIVIC. You can also text us on the app. Very easy to use. We're on statewide, so click on any one of the stations, and there's a little text icon right next to the station. Just click on that and fire away. And Conrad, tell people how can they give us a like or a follow or check us out and watch the radio on TV?
Yeah, so on Facebook, we're WISS, WGBW, or Nightlight with Pete Schwaba. On YouTube, it's WGBW or Civic Media. And on Twitter, it is Civic Media or WGBW.
Text us on the stream, text us on the app, or text us old school on the phone. Just get a hold of us one way or the other because we love it when you're part of the show, and we love to hear your opinions throughout. So what is your favorite podcast? Let us know. I'm probably going to say the two I just mentioned. I don't even listen to those as much as I should. But aside from sports podcasts I listen to, I would say probably Travel Tales and Never Not Funny. Mike Schmidt also has a great podcast called The 40-Year-Old Boy. I don't know if he's putting new episodes out or not, but that's a great one, too, if you want to find it, if you're looking for comedy. Mike has been on the show before and told stories. He gets going on a story, and I feel bad cutting him off because we have to do a break because he's just such a fun storyteller, but there are so many great podcasts out there. I'm actually putting this out there to look for recommendations as much as I am just wanting to start a conversation here with you, the listeners. So let us know. Lots going on. I had to comment on this earlier today, and I don't want to get into the fires too much, but the amount of experts on social media is staggering. People chiming in from that live nowhere near Southern California. They've got all the answers. And I don't think you can be mad at someone if they just remain quiet or ask questions. But it's those people pontificating that drive me berserk, where I'm almost to the point where I might have to defriend people and not just default, because I cannot listen to that. I understand. I want to hear viewpoints from all sides, whether it's politics, sports, entertainment. I think that is the spice of life. But if you're just being an idiot and spewing stuff you've heard, I don't need to listen to that. It raises my blood pressure and stresses me out. Having said that, Conrad, what do you think they should do about the fires? Do you have people like that on your social media? I would never just start flapping my lips about something I don't know anything about.
I saw just today on like an Instagram post that said, well, just pour some water on it. Obviously being really sarcastic.
Right.
All right, come on.
It's staggering. And I don't know. It's kind of depressing. Because the first thing you're thinking is when you see an entire region of a city, of the second largest city, burning, and your first instinct is to chime in with talking points you've heard elsewhere. It's easy to have all the answers when people tell you what to say. But if that's your first instinct, I just feel like you got to prioritize things going on. All I can think of is this is horrible. And I felt the same way with the floods in North Carolina or hurricanes in Florida. Like, you just want to say, get out of there, get to safety. I think that is something that brings all of us together. It's like, please, just leave. And I saw the video online of the guy in his home filming the fire outside, and people are like, why doesn't he leave the house? It's like, maybe he can't. That's my first instinct, too, is get out of there, but he's probably waiting for the firefighters or following orders. I don't know. Terrible stuff, though. I did it again. I brought the fires up again. Conrad, stop. Here's what you need to do. I'm going to quote Del Griffith here from Planes, Trains, and Automobiles. The next time you catch me running off at the mouth, you just give me a poke in the chops. Because it's like, I don't want to talk about, but I can't help delving back into it because it's so horrible.
Yeah.
We did miss a text from last night. And our question last night was, what is the best song to slow dance to? And we got some great answers. It was a really fun discussion. But we missed a text right at the end from Wisconsin Rapids. I thought her name was Pamela. I don't see the name on here now. But she said, 3 Times a Lady, generally played near the end of the evening. Also, Last Dance from Donna Summer. Last Dance is kind of fast, though. It's a great song. But I think that's kind of an upbeat. That's like more of a disco song. But I think we said that was okay, too, if you wanted to. So, great answer. Thank you. Yeah, she texted right at the end of the show, and we missed it. So, I wanted to make sure we got that out there. So, this is interesting. I don't know if you knew this, but the SAG Awards. I know most people who are, not in the entertainment business or aren't big showbiz, aficionados, so to speak, or huge fans, don't know much about the SAG Awards. And I will admit, I didn't know this either, but I found this fascinating yesterday when I read this, that they don't do like Best Picture. They approach everything from an acting standpoint because it's the Screen Actors Guild. And they give out awards, which I love, for Best Ensemble Cast. Top to bottom, the whole cast. And I love that because there are some movies that are so great, or TV shows, because the cast is phenomenal. And I just learned this yesterday researching this. Since 1995, when the SAG Awards started, the movie, the motion picture that won Best Ensemble Cast has won Best Picture at the Oscars every year, with the exception of four times, 4 years between 1995 and 2025 remains to be seen. That's incredible. It's great acting translates to great movies. Interesting stuff. All right, when we come back, we still have some Jim Gaffigan we have to get to, don't we?
Oh, yes.
Yeah,
yes.
let's pull that up next. That's at some comedy coming your way. Next, folks, on Nightlight with Pete Schwaba on the Civic Media Radio Network.
Walk alone, and you're forever talking on the phone. And I try to call your name, but every time it comes out the same.
From Denmark to De Pere, this is 97.9 WGBW.
You're listening to the American Democracy Minute, keeping your government by and for the people. Former New York Governor Andrew Cuomo signed automatic voter registration into law in December of 2020 to begin in January of 2023. Pandemic, technical, and bidding delays ensued, but preparation for voter registration at the DMV and other state agencies has finally begun. The New York State Board of Elections approved a resolution in December 2024 authorizing the state's Department of Motor Vehicles and other state agencies to create voter registration forms and transmit that data to the Board of Elections database. The new system allows citizens to opt out of voter registration, but will otherwise register or change registration information during official transactions. Gotham Gazette reports that both the implementation of automatic voter registration, or AVR, and online voter registration, or OVR, were delayed as technical staff was diverted for pandemic-related IT projects. While the delays are frustrating, getting it right is critical. Early adopter Oregon recently discovered flaws in its very successful AVR system, with evidence that ineligible citizens and non-citizens were accidentally registered during state transactions. The state is in the process of a system-wide audit. Brennan Center for Justice finds AVR has increased voter registrations from 9 to 94% in jurisdictions around the country. We have more on AVR at AmericanDemocracyMinute.org. I'm Brian Beal.
Skilled trade workers are the backbone of every community, and also the Army National Guard. Soldiers trained to keep the power flowing, engines running, and in every other trade needed to accomplish the mission. These soldiers are on the fast track to learning skills that can set them up for success at home with companies looking to hire the best. Their resumes are being built through their paid training and part-time service. Find out how you too can learn a trade profession by visiting NationalGuard.com.
Dislike for the game Connections is growing rapidly. It just seems to get worse every day. Did you do Connections today?
I really only do the Wordle.
Yeah. I would start with the Mini, and then I would do Wordle, and then I would do Letterboxd, and then Spelling Bee. But I don't pay for Spelling Bee, so I would get as many words as I can, and then they would just stop me. So that wasn't that much fun. But Letterboxd was fun. But when Connections came out, and Strands now, which I love, I stopped doing Letterboxd and Spelling Bee. And I loved Connections when it first came out. But I think they're just making stuff up now and running out of ideas. We talked about this recently. Today, was it today or yesterday? The category, the purple category, which is the hardest one, is words misspelled in new metal band names. It was like Lincoln, Biscuit,
Corn.
And they spelled it properly. So I'm like, well, I just didn't get it. And I get impatient. After like 5 minutes, I'm like, screw it. I just put anything because I want to get on with my day. Really frustrating. So a big movie opening this weekend is Den of Thieves, Pantera. It's another Gerard Butler film. He makes a lot of movies, a lot of action films. He made the first Den of Thieves. And, man, I love a good heist movie. And when Den of Thieves came out last, when was it? Maybe 2019, 2020. Not sure exactly when it came out. I was very excited to see it. Until there was a shootout on an exit ramp, and this task force of LA detectives with all these cars between them and the bad guys just started firing away with like 500 civilians between them. Like that would never happen. What was the movie we were talking about too? We liked it, and then there was this high-speed chase. It was the Matt Damon and Ben Affleck's brother movie.
Private Investigators or something like that.
Instigators.
The Instigators.
Like, I kind of like that. That was a heist movie, too. And then all of a sudden, they're doing this high-speed chase, and cops are flying over trees in their cars, and it just loses me. It's just lazy writing. Write something that makes sense. Because who doesn't love a good shootout or car chase? We all do. But make it believable. So I'm hoping this Den of Thieves 2, Pantera, is more believable.
You know, what you're describing right now is every Fast and Furious movie. Every single one.
Just completely implausible.
The last one I saw was The Rock and Vin Diesel in it.
Wait a minute. The Rock and Vin Diesel were in something that was hard to believe?
Yeah. Right? Like, you wouldn't expect it, you know?
What were their names? This is another thing that cracks me up. Two of the most macho, The Rock and Vin Diesel. Their real names are like Jerry Phillips or something like that.
Dwayne Johnson.
But I don't even think his real name is Dwayne Johnson.
Is it? I think that's his dad's name or something.
I'm going to look it up because it's bothering me.
Go to the Google.
I know that Vin Diesel.
Dwayne Douglas
Johnson.
Vin Diesel's is Mark Sinclair.
Mark Sinclair. Yeah. Fine names. There's nothing wrong with Dwayne Johnson or Mark Sinclair. Vin Diesel?
Where did he get that? I don't think I've ever found out actually where he came up with that.
It's just it's a little too macho. No one is that tough. Maybe in a movie you are. I don't know. But I'm hoping Den of Thieves 2 is good. I love a good heist film. I'm a little skeptical because they go overseas now. Gerard Butler is chasing the same diamond thief.
O'Shea Jackson, right?
O'Shea Jackson, who was in the first one. Yeah. He's chasing him through Europe. Now, I didn't know that local LA cops do that, but you know, his name in the film is Big Nick. And it's Den of Thieves 2, Pantera. Tried to look that up too. I still have no idea what they're talking about. All right, let's switch. Conrad, we have to do some comedy. Pat Sajak has been in the news quite a bit lately because he retired from Wheel of Fortune. He went and did some dinner theater play. No idea he had acting chops. But then he came back to, I think, celebrity host Wheel of Fortune. And when I found this clip, I'm like, we have to play this because Jim Gaffigan is just so funny. And I love when he has a take on something. He's so dry. Here's Jim Gaffigan talking about Pat Sajak and Wheel of Fortune.
There are some people in the entertainment industry that have unique skills that are properly compensated. I'm talking about once-in-a-generation talents, right? You know, someone like Pat Sajak, former host of Wheel of Fortune. Was there anything Pat Sajak couldn't do? Think about this. He was the host of Wheel of Fortune. He was like a Renaissance man. I'm sure Pat Sajak's a good guy. And I love Wheel of Fortune. I'm not even 80. I love Wheel of Fortune. So when he announced his retirement, I was kind of bummed, you know? And he seems like a good guy. So he probably gathered everyone from the Wheel of Fortune family together. And he's like, I've been doing this for a couple decades, and I've decided to retire. I wish I was there, because if I was there, I'd have been like, you know, this isn't a real job, right? You don't get to retire from playing hangman. The appropriate thing to do is to apologize and give back all the money. Because Pat Sajak had a good gig. You know how much he made a year? $17 million a year. $17 million. And he didn't even turn the letters. That was probably part of the negotiation. He's like, I can't do everything. So they got Vanna White. He made $17 million. Vanna made $3 million. I think we'd all agree they both should make nothing. When he announced his retirement, where the producer's like, oh no, this is awful. Where are we going to find someone to say it's your turn to spin the wheel? The good news, there is good news. Pat Sajak is continuing on as a consultant on the show. I don't know what consulting work there is on the Wheel of Fortune. Any new letters come out today? No, Pat's still the same 26 letters. All right, well, I'll be in my office.
That's so great. Jim Gaffigan talking about Pat Sajak. He's so right, too. Like, I kind of agree. I agree with people that said, oh, Pat Sajak was so good. Well, he was, but, you know, it wasn't too tough a job. He had it down to a science. I thought he'd been at it longer than 2 decades, too. All right. Hey, when we come back, it's our popcorn pick of the week, ladies and gentlemen. And I am excited to say Matt Nair on air, co-host Greg Bach will be here. And he is going to give us our pick this week. And we'll talk to Greg after Civic Media's award-winning news team keeps you informed. This is Pete Schwaba and Nite Light. Great to have you with me on the Civic Media Radio Network. To the Talk of Green Bay, WGBW, home for Nite Light with Pete Schwaba.
This is your local Civic Media radio station. Want to hear even more? Anytime? Find all of it at civicmedia.us.
For 97.9 WGBW News, I'm Lisa Hale. The manhunt has ended. Juneau County Sheriff's officials say Virgil Thu has been apprehended and is in custody. Thu is the lone suspect in a triple homicide investigation in New Lisbon. He's accused of killing 33-year-old Elizabeth Kolba and a 13-year-old and 12-year-old girl last week. Officials say there was an increased police presence in the city of Elroy today and that it was in connection to Thu. More details are expected to be released later. The United States has for decades been a net exporter of food, but Representative Derek Van Orden recently said that's changed. Here with more details is a Wisconsin Watch fact brief.
The U.S. now imports more food than it exports, reversing a long-term trend noted by Representative Derek Van Orden. Since 2018, the U.S. has been a net importer of agricultural products, with 2025 imports projected at $215.5 billion and exports at $170 billion. The shift is driven by demand for imported foods like coffee, despite increasing U.S. food production. I'm Trisha Young for Wisconsin Watch. Learn more at wisconsinwatch.org.
The Oshkosh Area School District is hosting its first annual Martin Luther King Jr. Day celebration January 20th at 8 a.m. at the Vel Phillips Middle School. The event's goal is to bring students, families, staff, and community members together to honor Dr. King's legacy. The event is free and open to the public, but advanced registration is required. RSVP at the school district website. The registration deadline is tomorrow. I'm Lisa Hale, 97.9 WGBW News. For news anytime, log on to WGBW.FM.
On your entertainment beat, I'm Pete Schwaba. Award show season is not only fun if you like award shows, it also can give you excellent suggestions of what you should be watching. On the heels of Sunday night's Golden Globes ceremony, the Screen Actors Guild just announced their nominations. Leading the way in the film category was Wicked with 5 nominations. Not too far behind with 4 nominations was A Complete Unknown, the Bob Dylan biopic. Let's do a deep dive. One of the cool things about the SAG Awards is that they recognize entire ensembles when it comes to cast. A Complete Unknown and Wicked are both nominated in the category, in addition to Conclave, Honora, and Amelia Perez. Typically, when the movie wins for ensemble cast at the SAG Awards, it more often than not results in a Best Picture win at, wait for it, the Oscars. Cast Ensemble has been a category at the SAG Awards since 1995, and Variety reports that in 30 years, only 4 films have won Best Picture at the Oscars that didn't win for Best Ensemble at the SAG Awards. For more showbiz fun, tune in to Nightlight with me, Pete Schwaba, weeknights from 6 to 8 p.m. on the Civic Media Radio Network.
Local radio for you and your community. It's Civic Media's mission with stations across Wisconsin. Find your favorites at civicmedia.us.
I'm meteorologist Mace Michaels. Cloudy tonight with scattered flurries and snow showers. Lows upper teens. A mix of sun and clouds for tomorrow. Highs upper 20s. Dry Saturday, more snow possible late Saturday night and Sunday. Weekend highs in the mid to upper 20s. Currently it's 26.
The Maggie Dawn Show.
Here's what the WSJ had said after J6. This week has probably finished Donald Trump as a serious political figure. Boy, that hasn't aged well, has it?
No, not at all. In the Wall Street Journal. So after what they just said 4 years ago, Maggie, they couldn't bring it upon themselves to say that guy who did that shouldn't be anywhere near the White House again. Nope, couldn't do it.
The Maggie Dawn Show. Weekdays from 2 till 4 on your local Civic Media radio station and on the Civic Media app. The Todd Alba Show.
What's going on in Washington today as we move into 2025? Have your antenna up. Don't rely on all the media sources. Just your own wisdom, your own heart, your own gut. Listen to what they're saying about our friends and neighbors and family, because we innately know these people that we live with every day in our communities. Don't allow words and thoughts to tear us apart. Hold fast to that which we know, which is good.
The Todd Alba Show. Weekdays noon till 2 on your local Civic Media radio station and on the app.
Hi, this is Jim Schmidt. Join me as we learn from the
It's time for the Nightlight Popcorn Pick of the Week, where we recommend a movie that you'll either enjoy or won't. Here's your host, Pete Schwaba.
One of my favorite segments of the week, where we get to hear from a good friend or someone we just met. It's important to have an exchange of ideas, because if you're going to be a true inside guy, couch potato, or girl for that matter, you need suggestions. So that's why we are thrilled to welcome my next guest here to Nightlight. He's been on the show before. He's a very funny comedian and owner of the Laughing Tap in Milwaukee, and he is the co-host of Matt and Air on Air right here on Civic Media, and he joins us now over the stream, Greg Bach. Greg, how are you?
Good evening, Pete. How are you doing today?
I'm doing very well. You sound really formal tonight, buddy.
Well, you know, I'm on radio with you.
How are you? How the heck how are things going?
Things are going well, you know, just living life. The holidays are done, getting back to normal. All the family gatherings are finished. All the presents have been unwrapped, and now just, you know, back to regular life.
Back to ordinary time.
Yeah.
Our question tonight, Greg, is what is your favorite podcast? And I don't know, you know, do you have a favorite podcast? Are you too gassed, like when you're done hosting radio and being a guest and all this kind of stuff? What do you listen to?
So there are two podcasts. There's one I've been listening to for years now called The Weekly Planet, which is a podcast based out of Australia that talks about movies, comic book movies, comic books, games, video games. And it's just really fun. It's two guys, like, they're not super duper nerds. They're really funny. And I listen to it every week. And I recommend it to anyone who enjoys news about, especially news about comic book movies and video games and things like that. And then one that I just recently discovered is called The Midnight Library of Baseball, which is one guy, and he talks in a very dulcet tone like this about baseball topics. It's one topic. It's anywhere from 15 minutes to 40 minutes, and I really enjoy it. It gets into the deep weeds of the history of baseball, which I really, really like.
Yeah.
And so I've been very much, it's hard to listen to that one on the way home late at night because his voice is just like this. And, you know, it's the midnight library of baseball. So, yeah, those are the two that I've really been deep into lately.
Do you listen to comedy or comedians podcasts? You're in
I
the
try
comedy
never
game?
to. Pete, comedy's crass. I don't really like. I don't like comics. I'm not a fan of comedy. It's just no. I watch specials. I watch comedy specials. I don't watch them all. I do feel like now there are just so many of them.
Oh my gosh!
I grew up in a time when there was one place to see comedy like specials. It was HBO. And if you got an HBO special, that was a big deal.
Yeah.
But no, I mean, I still listen there. I mean, I still listen to Patton Oswalt albums, Kyle Kinane records, and yeah, I mean, I listen to comedy records here and there, but not as much as I used to. And I mean, we did the math, and we did like 600 shows last year between everything, and so I saw a lot of comedy last year. So sometimes I even just drive. I mean, I'm sure you know this, like whether you go to a concert or you do a show and you're kind of all talked out and sounded out.
Yeah.
You'll just drive home in silence. You'll just be like, "This is nice. This is perfect."
It's true. I honestly, and one time, like when I go home at night, sometimes I'll have, like I was saying before, I'll put, most of my day is doing showbiz type stuff. So I want an escape, so I'll put sports on, and every once in a while, I'll put a pop music radio station on, Greg, just so I have some idea of what music is out there, because that's kind of foreign to me. I know that sounds crazy, but it's true.
No, you're not crazy at all. I mean, and I don't mean to cast aspersions upon your age or my age, but I think one of the things, I think it's a very good idea to know what's going on right now, because the last thing I ever want to be, I'm 47. I don't want to be the guy who's like, well, back in my day, we had real music. It's, you guys ever heard of Metallica? Like, I don't want to be that guy. I want to hear the music that I at least want to be aware. I might not like it or turn it on first, but I at least want to be aware of what younger people are listening to, because I love to know what they enjoy, and I'm happy that they are enjoying it.
I totally agree with you, and I feel like the people, it's like kind of the lowest form of intelligence when people say, well, when I was a kid, we played outside. We weren't sitting in on those video games. And I'm like, well, if you were a kid now, that's what you'd be doing. Because,
exactly.
what? You didn't have Jackal back then. So,
Well, and when they were a kid, their parents were saying, we didn't have cable when we were your age. We,
exactly.
We worked in a quarry when we were 12. It's... I've said it before, and I'll say it again. I do not enjoy intergenerational squabbling.
Yeah.
It doesn't get anything done, and I think that when I listen to young people make fun of older people, I'm like, yeah, you'll be older one day. It's fine. But when older people make fun of younger people, I'll be like, just because they're having a better time than you doesn't mean you have to make fun of them.
Yeah, it goes both ways. When you hear
Exactly.
some young punk who doesn't know anything say, okay, boomer, it's like, well, you got to think of something original, then I'll have a little more respect for you. But so, all right, you got this great comedy club, Greg, and you're hosting this, co-hosting this amazing radio show. What's coming up on both? What's coming up on Matt and Air on air that we need to know about? And who do you have coming into the club that people should go see?
Well, this weekend we actually have Nate Craig, who's a Madison native.
Oh,
he
nice.
is someone actually you should have on your show too. He's fantastic.
He's
from Madison, lives in Los Angeles. He was on a Netflix TV show that the name of it is now escaping me. Maniac, I believe it was.
Tiger
but
King.
It had,
okay.
Was that? Yes, exactly. Tiger King.
Nice.
It starred Jonah Hill and Emma Stone, so it has a big. He's also released a special live at the Green Mill, which he taped at the Green Mill Club in Chicago a couple years ago.
Oh, cool, yeah.
And it was produced by Bill Burr's label, All Things Comedy. So Nate is great. There's 4 shows this weekend.
Nice.
You can buy tickets at laughingtap.com. And then we have the following week, our friend Evan Hull is going to be recording an album. He'll be doing that at our club. I mean, the new year has got great headliners coming up, and then, just moving our way through the months. And before we know it, it's summer. And before we know it, it's fall. And the Milwaukee Comedy Festival 20 years is happening this coming October. And we're going to be right back here in January of 2026 going, hey, what happened in 2025?
Yeah, I don't want to say you're getting ahead of us here, Greg.
Yeah, exactly.
You just skipped over a year.
Yeah. As far as Matt and Air, sorry, everybody just cracked my knuckles. As far as Matt and Air on air goes, we got great guests coming up. We're going to be having our friend Matt Randolph coming back on the show. His name is Mr. Global Online. He is a certified gas and oil expert. He talks about the myths, the truths of gas and oil in America, and really breaks the subject down into digestible pieces for everyone. And he very much is a what's the word I'm looking for? A logistical thinker on the topic, but he also won't lie to you either. Like, he's going to tell you that, we need to look at alternative energies, but we're not at the place where we need to be as a country, whether infrastructure. Very interesting guy. He'll be on this coming Monday at 10:30. You want to check that out.
Nice.
So we got great guests coming up, and I'm very much looking forward to the next few. I love doing that show. Jane is fantastic. And,
She's so great.
oh my gosh, it's a masterclass in radio.
You guys are great together. I mean, what I love about your show is you cover everything. You do current events, you do some politics, and then like Randolph, and then you do some show business stuff. It's a really fun show, and I encourage everybody to check it out if you haven't already. All right, before we get to movies and popcorn,
okay,
I guess we're there actually, but I do want to ask you one more question about comedy. All right, so the business has ebbs and flows. When I started doing stand-up, in like 1990, Greg, I was lucky. I got in when there was a boom. There was tons of work.
Yeah.
And then, that sort of started to dissipate a little bit in the mid 90s, right when I left the Midwest. And I think it came back, and then COVID hit. Where's the state of comedy right now from a club owner's perspective?
That's a great question. Where is the state of comedy at with post-COVID? Definitely it's picking up. I mean, there is I was thinking about this yesterday. I was watching a clip from a comic who, in my opinion, is huge. And and the reason why I'm not going to mention names is because I don't want to speak ill of them, but I feel like there was this whole layer of comics who were just ready to explode. Like they had specials, they've released records, they've done roast things, they've done they've been all over the place. And they've been on television. Their names are starting to bubble up to the top. And then COVID hit. And then it kind of like they couldn't perform for a year and a half, 2 years. And it might be like starting over. They're going back to the clubs, which is nothing wrong with going to the clubs. I run a club. I want you to be at our club. Yeah. But I feel like COVID really kept a whole layer of comics from hitting that huge level status for a while. And now they're reworking their way up. And I mean, with the rise of social media as a platform to put comedy out there, it's definitely changed the landscape with the art and how it's presented. We see a lot of clips that are crowd work clips, which I don't have a huge problem with, but it does require us to approach our audience with a different sense of care, where we say, hey, don't engage with the comic unless they talk to you first, because this isn't the internet, this isn't TikTok. And I think what we're seeing is now we're seeing like not a mutation, like that's also kind of a pejorative, but just you have your regular comedy that you're going to go see in a club, and then you have comics that are touring theaters doing crowd work all the time. So I think that post-pandemic, I think you've seen a real splinter into different genres of stand-up that are all becoming popular in their own way, and people who really grassroots, like a real DIY punk rock attitude of just playing small venues but being very, very aware of how they hustle online, getting bigger gigs and more followers. I mean, if you have 1 million followers on one social media platform, you're going to be touring all over the country. That's just how it is.
Yeah. Have you had, are you familiar with Mary Mack?
Absolutely. We've had her at the club. I love Mary.
She's so
Mary is
funny.
just a dear, dear person. And I can't speak about Mary without in the same breath speaking of the wonderful Tim Harmston, her husband, who I love both of them so very much. And hopefully getting one, if not both of them back at the club this year. But Mary is just phenomenal.
She's so great. She was on the show a couple months ago, and it reminded me when you said playing a small bar or smaller venue. She was doing a tour of small venues. And I was like, oh, that's brilliant. Sell out a small venue as opposed to sit in a cavernous whatever. So let's do this. I have a couple more comedy questions for you, Greg.
Let's do it.
But let's get to, before we run out of time here in this first segment, and I'm hoping you can stick around for a few more minutes after the quick break. But
I'm here for as long as you need me, my friend.
All right. So I think it's that time of the week that we need to get your popcorn pick, Greg, of a movie that you could recommend. So, Conrad, if you please. Ladies and gentlemen, Greg Bach, who you can hear on Matt and Aaron Air from 10 a.m. to noon every day here at Civic Media. He's also a comedian. Greg, what is your popcorn pick of the week?
My popcorn pick of the week is a 2023 British black comedy called Wicked Little Letters.
Wow. I love it. I have not heard of that, and I love it even more. Wicked Little Letters.
It's listed as a black comedy mystery.
Oh, my gosh. That's great. Feature film.
It's a feature film. It's based off of what's called the Little Hampton Libels, which was a series of very, very risque foul-mouthed letters sent to various people throughout a small community in England, and what all came to be from that incident. And it stars Olivia Colman, which right there,
Oh, love her.
right there, Olivia Colman, you got me there, because she can do no wrong in my opinion. If I could be friends with an actor, I would be friends with Olivia Colman. But the cast itself is fantastic, and she is wonderful, and it's a mystery. So you're laughing, but you're like on the edge of your seat and wanting to find out what's going to happen. And then the end of the movie happens. It's really good. So Wicked Little Letters is the name of the film.
Great recommendation. I love when I get a recommendation that I haven't seen yet, and that's fantastic. Okay, cool. We'll look for that, and that's fantastic. So, what else are you watching? Anything binge worthy, Greg? You watch TV shows?
I do actually. I'm currently binging Young Sheldon. I know. Come at me,
wow.
haters. I'm an unabashed lover of the Big Bang universe. I love the Big Bang theory and Young Sheldon. And I hear the music coming. It's like the Oscars right now. I'm being called off. I'm so sorry. I've talked too long.
Or in comedy club lingo, we're giving you the light. But
man.
We'll let you continue.
Okay.
And just after a very quick break here, we're having some fun here tonight. Greg Bach just gave us his popcorn pick of the week. We'll have a couple more minutes with Greg when we come back. You got Nightlight with Pete Schwaba on the Civic Media Radio Network.
You pick up little dynamite, I'm gonna pick up little gun. We're gonna go out tonight, make that highway run. You don't have to call me lieutenant, I don't wanna be your son. The only lover I'm ever gonna need is some sweet little girl's tongue.
From Ashwaubenon to Alloway, this is 97.9 WGBW.
Hey, it's family time at Chula Vista with the right kind of fun for everyone. Wisconsin's most complete resort experience has everything you want. Fine-tuned for 70 years by 4 generations of the Kaminsky family. Chula Vista can be easygoing with colorful scenic river walks, a rejuvenating spa visit, relaxing at outdoor fire pits, or you can go all out in 80,000 square feet of indoor water park and outdoors with cross-country skiing, sledding, and snowshoeing. Dining comes any way you like it, from pizza to Wisconsin's #1 ranked steakhouse. More than 600 guest rooms to choose from with $10 million in updates. Chula Vista, everything you've been wanting, all right here on site. Check it out at chulavistaresort.com.
Discover Chula's Winter Wonderland. Miles of freshly groomed trails, skiing, sledding, snowshoeing. Check out bonus gift cards at chulavistaresort.com.
Hey there, it's Carrie Joy with your Work Money Minute. Freezing your credit sounds drastic, but it's not. In fact, freezing your credit is one of the best ways you can protect yourself from identity theft. Freezing your credit doesn't stop your credit score from going up or down. It's just a way to make sure that nobody can open an account in your name, not even you, without removing your freeze first. So to freeze your credit, you just contact each of the 3 major credit bureaus and you request a credit freeze. Just search up the term credit freeze and you'll find the phone numbers and websites where you can get it all done. And don't worry, you can always unfreeze your credit when you need to apply for new credit, like a loan or something, by contacting each bureau again. For more money tips, check out workmoney.org or text MONEY, MONEY, to 8.
Greg Bach does not need some young whippersnapper to tell him that this is a great song.
Oh my gosh.
Dancing away over there. I love it, buddy.
Rocks out. It rocks out.
My guest is Greg Bach. He is a comedian and the owner of The Laughing Tap in Milwaukee, which you should definitely check out. Some great shows coming up there in the next couple of weeks. He's also the co-host of Matt and Air on Air here at Civic Media, which you can catch every day on the network from 10 a.m. to 12 noon. Great to have Greg here. His popcorn pick of the week was the black the British black comedy mystery Wicked Little Letters. And you were talking about young Sheldon, Greg. I know Conrad's a big fan of the show as well.
Yeah, I really enjoy it. I watched The Big Bang Theory, and I finally decided to. Especially it completed the show this year, so I'm watching through the whole thing, and then there's the other spin-off that they just released this year, so I got more to watch. But yeah, I'm really enjoying it. The characters are great, the actors are wonderful. The lady who plays Sheldon's mother on Big Bang Theory is Laurie Metcalf, and Laurie Metcalf's daughter plays young Sheldon's mother on the spin-off.
Her real life daughter?
Her real life daughter
plays.
plays.
I didn't know that.
Yeah,
wow.
And when you see it in her eyes and the way she speaks. But to me, whenever Laurie Metcalf is on screen, I am happy. She is so good.
She's so great.
Oh my gosh, she is just a phenomenal actor.
It was idolized in our house from her time on Roseanne. My wife loved that show, Greg. And when we moved to LA, she lived right behind us. Like
what?
The apartment building we were in backed up against her yard. She had a tennis court. And when my wife found out that was Laurie Metcalf's house, all bets were off. So we saw her at the grocery store within 3 months of living there. And my wife, to tell the story, it's so funny. She looked at her and she was smiling and looked like a psychopath because she was seeing her idol up close. And I think since that, Laurie Metcalf wanted nothing to do with us, but she's so great, so unbelievably talented. And that's I didn't know that was her daughter though.
Yeah, and actually, like when they rebooted Roseanne and it turned into the Connors is fantastic too. And Laurie, I mean, like you still have Laurie Metcalf, you have John Goodman. I mean, that cast is fantastic as well. And that's going to be having its final season this year as well. And I'm looking forward to watching.
How do they explain? And I can Google this, but you're here. We're talking about it now. How do they explain John Goodman's death on Roseanne and bringing him back? Is it some kind of prequel?
It's just like it's like a retcon. They just sort of ignore it. It's like it was all like we were kidding.
You bought that? Come on. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, I don't even remember the last season and a half of the original show. It got weird, real weird. But, what they do now is fantastic. And, binging anything else, I'm always watching The West Wing at some point.
Oh, nice. Okay.
Yeah.
So let me ask you this. Comedy is your game. Who do you like now? Like if you're flipping around on, let's say, basic cable, whatever, and you see someone come on, what new comedians do you think have a shot to be legendary or that you can't turn off? That kind of thing.
Gosh. Oh my gosh. Oh my God. I can't. That is such a wide question.
Chappelle.
No.
Pat McGann. Do you know Pat McGann?
I know. I mean, I've never shaken his hand, but I know of Pat McGann. My friend Jim Flanagan opens for him on a regular basis.
Okay.
And
right.
Pat is fantastic. I'm just trying to think. I mean, he's already kind of becoming a legend, but Nate Bargatze is absolutely phenomenal. He's a wonderful man. Maria Bamford's also, in my head, a legend.
She's great. Yeah.
She is someone who nobody can touch. Nobody can touch her.
Wow,
like she has got a style all her own, absolutely unique in her presentation. And I feel like anyone else trying to do what she does on stage it would be disingenuous. So
interesting.
I mean, that's just a few of the one of the great comics that we have come through. Dulce Sloan, who's on the Daily Show. She's fantastic as well.
Okay, is she the? She's blonde hair.
No, she's a black woman.
Sit at the desk. Oh, okay. Gotcha.
No. Dulce is one of she's hosted, and she's a correspondent.
Okay.
I can't think of the other lady right now that you're thinking of. And
she's funny too. They're all great. I don't watch
Desi Lydek. Desi Lydek. Yeah. That's her name.
Since I've been doing this show, I've met so many fun Wisconsin comedians like Mary Mack, Johnny Beaner.
I love Johnny.
John Egan a couple weeks ago was on the show, and
isn't he angry? He's so angry. He's just always angry. John Egan, that boy is
in a charming way. Like he sat here amused, but also like he could reach over and strangle my throat, or something. But yeah, there's a dynamic there. But I'm bringing him and Johnny up to Marinette as well as a comedian from the UP for a fundraiser, and I'm very excited to watch those guys back to back. And
well, if you ever need a comedian, Pete, I mean,
do you know someone?
I mean, I might know a guy.
Greg, If you're willing to drive 2.5 hours, I'll put you down next year. We do this fundraiser every year.
Yeah.
And I'm always looking for people. I would love to have you out there. It'd be a blast.
Absolutely. Let me know. I've been to
All right.
Marionette. I've done comedy. I've done comedy in Ishpeming, my friend.
Listen, dude, you can't say Marionette, though. They will chase you out of that
What
town.
is
It is
Marionette?
Marinette.
Okay. Good Lord. I didn't mean to spook the locals.
The locals would love you, buddy. Hey, thanks so much for your time tonight. Always fun. And thank you for a great recommendation. I'm
No
excited
problem,
to
man. I
check out that
appreciate it. I
movie.
appreciate it. Thanks for the invite.
You got it. Keep up the great work with
Thanks,
Jane.
bud.
And happy birthday to your co-host as well.
Yes. Happy birthday, Jane.
Yeah. All right. That's Greg Bach. Check out the Laughing Tap in Milwaukee. Great room. And check out Matt and Air on Air right here on Civic Media from 10 a.m. to 12 noon. Greg and Jane are phenomenal and so much fun to listen to. We've got, we got a text, Conrad, about our podcast question. From the 414, enjoying the show. Hope this doesn't disqualify me as a good listener, but I enjoy Joe Rogan, mostly because of the guests he gets. Thanks. And then he did share his name. That's Todd from Watertown. Yeah, no, no judgment, Todd. We all have our podcast, and thank you for chiming in. That's so great. Joe is a former comedian, and I think he does a good job at the UFC fights. I will say that. So thank you for sharing your opinion. What is your favorite podcast, ladies and gentlemen? Let us know. You can text us, message us on the stream, or go old school with the phone. Just get a hold of us one way or the other. We'd love to hear from you. It's Pete Schwaba and Nightlight. Mike Clemens coming up next.
Listening to the talk of Green Bay, WGBW, home of Mino and the Mayor.
Max Inc. Radio, original local music from Wisconsin, Saturday and Sundays, 6 to midnight. This weekend, we welcome brand new band Take Back the Sun, and Terry chats with Aaron Schokey about Wisconsin polka. It's Max Inc. on Civic Media. We are local music.
The possibility of lung cancer can be pretty scary, especially if you're one of approximately 8 million current or former smokers at high risk. That's why SaveByTheScan.org wants you to know that now there's a breakthrough low-dose CT scan that can detect lung cancer early, and it only takes 60 seconds. You stop smoking, now start screening. For an easy quiz to see if you're eligible, visit SaveByTheScan.org. It could save your life. SaveByTheScan.org is brought to you by the American Lung Association's Lung Force Initiative and the Ad Council.
Your news, conversations, and a whole lot of fun. It's all on your local Civic Media radio station or the Civic Media app. This is 97.9 WGBW Denmark, Green Bay's real news and great conversation, a Civic Media radio station.
ABC News, I'm Richard Cantu. It appears former President Trump will be sentenced Friday, tomorrow, on 34 felony counts in the hush money business fraud case. A divided Supreme Court, on a 5-4 vote, rejected Trump's bid to delay the sentencing. Former President Carter's remains are back in Plains, Georgia, for burial. Earlier, a state funeral in Washington, D.C., President Biden eulogizing.
Jimmy Carter's friendship taught me, and through his life taught me, the strength of character.
Character figuring prominently in the president's eulogy.
Throughout his life, he showed us what it means to be a practitioner of good works and a good and faithful servant of God and of the people.
Later, Mr. Biden announced that the federal government will cover 100% of wildfire-related costs in Southern California for 6 months. This is ABC News.
You can always continue the conversation on social media. Share your thoughts when you find and follow Civic Media on Facebook, X, and Instagram.
For 97.9 WGBW News, I'm Lisa Hale. Today is a national day of mourning for former President Jimmy Carter, who died on December 29th at 100 years old. President Joe Biden delivered the eulogy at Carter's funeral today, and President-elect Donald Trump attended the service. The service was also attended by the remaining living former presidents, Bill Clinton, George W. Bush, and Barack Obama, plus current Vice President Kamala Harris. The U.S. Postal Service will not deliver mail today, and federal offices and departments are closed. In addition, the stock exchange did not have any trading today. Flags at government buildings will fly at half-staff through January 28th. Families and educators from many Northeast Wisconsin schools will need credit monitoring and identity protection after a cyber attack on an education technology software platform called PowerSchool. The data was accessed on December 28th. The company allegedly paid a ransom to the attackers for video evidence of the compromised files being deleted and digitally shredded. PowerSchool will provide affected school districts with information to engage families and teachers affected by the attack. Several districts in New Wisco use PowerSchool, including Reedsville, West Appear, and Sturgeon Bay. Green Bay is both a big and a small city, and that puts it in a great position to market it for tourism, says Nick Meisner, Vice President of Marketing for Discover Green Bay.
You know, we're a small enough place where people from Chicago and Milwaukee and Madison can come up and kind of get away from the hustle and bustle of a really big city, whereas like people from the UP and northern Wisconsin come and we're their retail destination, healthcare destination. We're the city that they're going to.
This is the big city.
6.3 million people visited Green Bay in 2023. Meisner was a guest on Civic Media's Lean Local with Jim Schmidt, airing Sundays on WGBW. I'm Lisa Hale, 97.9 WGBW News. For news anytime, log on to WGBW.FM.
The Packers prepare for Philly. Hi, I'm Mike Clemens with sports. The Green Bay Packers face the Eagles in Philadelphia Sunday in the wild card playoffs. The Eagles have one of the top-ranked defenses in the league under coordinator Vic Fangio. I asked Matt LaFleur what makes them so tough.
You just don't see a whole lot of open space, a lot of gotcha plays. You're going to have to earn it, because if they get you in third and long, it's a nightmare.
College basketball, two of the Badgers men's team dealing with injuries. Max Klesmet in a walking boot after injuring his right ankle. Nolan Winter able to practice despite suffering a deep cut to his finger the other night. Wisconsin hosts Minnesota Friday night. NBA, the Bucks with a 121-105 blowout over the Spurs. AJ Green with 14 points asked, how do you defend 7'3" Victor Wembanyama?
Just be physical and crawl up under him, try to make him uncomfortable, stab at the dribble. That's what coaches wanted us to do, and I think that's how you got to try and guard him.
That's the Bucks' AJ Green. With sports, I'm Mike Clemens.
I'm Lisa Hale with WGBW News. Your news roundup in quick podcast form. You can find it anywhere at the WGBW website, WGBW.FM.
I'm meteorologist Mace Michaels. Cloudy tonight with scattered flurries and snow showers. Lows upper teens. A mix of sun and clouds for tomorrow. Highs upper 20s. Dry Saturday, more snow possible late Saturday night and Sunday. Weekend highs in the mid to upper 20s. Currently, it's 26.
Uh-oh, Brad's buzzed.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, he's starting with the woots. And now a speech.
I just want to say that friendship is about heart and brain. Who's with me?
Good thing is, he knows when he's buzzed.
And my brain is saying, when it's time to go home, somebody call me a ride.
Love that guy.
Me too.
Know your buzzed warning signs? Call for a ride when it's time to go home. Buzz driving is drunk driving. A message from NHTSA and the Ad Council.
Matt Nair on Air.
It is our 1 year anniversary here on Matt Nair on Air. Thank you, Greg and Calvin, for being on this journey with me. It's been great.
Thanks for having me. I can't speak for Calvin.
I'm always thrilled to be here.
Unbridled.
The enthusiasm brimming over from you, Calvin. I'm overwhelmed. Thank you.
Matt Nair on Air. Weekdays 10 till noon on your local Civic Media radio station and on the app. Dom Selvia.
Next time, Earl Ingram will join me to discuss the results of Justice Juan Merchan's sentencing of the president-elect, whatever that is. Plus, it's Friday. Tell us something good. Tune in.
Broadcasting live from the Civic Media Studios in Green Bay, this is Nite Lite with Pete Schwaba, your inside source on everything entertainment from Wisconsin to Hollywood. And now, a man barely 6 feet tall, but a mountain of muscle, Pete Schwaba.
Welcome back. We missed you. It's hour number 2 of Nightlight, a Thursday night edition. I should have told Greg when he was here, congratulations, because congratulations to both Jane and Greg on 1 year on the air. I didn't realize. I thought they had been on longer than that, actually.
I think they were, it was just a little bit after us that they started
I think that's right.
Yeah.
I figured. I know Jane was on before that, but anyway, very cool stuff, and congrats to the team at Matt and Air on Air. All right, this is exciting, folks. We're going to talk, as I mentioned earlier, we're covering a wide array of entertaining topics tonight. We just did our popcorn pick of the week with Greg. And at 7:35, we've got James Roberts, the regional director of the Fellowship of Poets for Wisconsin, who will talk about a big event coming up here in January. But right now, we are about to turn our attention to sports and our very good friend, Civic Media Sports Authority, Mike Clemens. Mike, how are you?
Pete, how are you, pal?
Doing great. Good to have you on the show. Where are you calling from, Mike?
My media office at Lambeau Field. I'm underneath the seats.
Okay.
In the south end zone.
Okay.
Sounds kind of creepy, doesn't it? Like a troll.
It's better than being underneath the seats at a high school football game or college football game.
No, actually, when you take the tour, they take you right through here because ESPN's across the hallway, Packers Radio Network, Associated Press, the newspapers, the Milwaukee Journal-Sentinel, Press Gazette, and then your boy here's will be with Wisconsin Radio Network and Civic Media Radio Station. So there you go.
Outstanding. It's nice to have those credentials, my friend. So, all right. So, what can we expect, Mike? Are you going to Philadelphia, or are you staying?
I am.
Okay. When do you ship out, so to speak?
Saturday. I got favorable flight times. I got a nonstop. Wow. Isn't that nice?
Yeah, from Green Bay.
No, from Milwaukee.
Oh, from Milwaukee.
Okay. Yeah, Milwaukee. Because I live in the Milwaukee area.
Right.
And I'll go Milwaukee straight into Philadelphia, and like
Beautiful.
a 2-hour nonstop flight. So yeah, I avoided a lot of, and I wanted that because it's a crazy time of year, and there might be some snow between here and Pennsylvania to deal with. So you just try and make it as efficient as possible. But get there Saturday. Game is Sunday afternoon, and I come back on Tuesday because I'll be doing updates after the game all day Monday.
Okay, very cool. Hey, did I hear Wayne Larrivee called the Bears-Packers game, obviously. Did he call Detroit, Minnesota as well later that night?
No.
Okay, that must have been someone. I was like, man, if this guy jumped on a plane right after the Packer game, must have been someone who just sounded like him.
Well, like on the radio?
Or, yeah, I thought it was a radio broadcast. I could have sworn it was Larrivee, but...
I doubt it.
Okay.
I doubt it. I mean, Wayne has had that kind of schedule in years past. He was doing. First of all, he started out with the Kansas City Chiefs at a very young age. It's a great story. He just kind of sent in a tape and somehow got the job. Then he was with the Bears throughout much of the 80s.
He was great.
And even though he grew up in Massachusetts, he was always a Packers fan. He was a 5-6 year old kid and loved the Lombardi era. And when the Packers job opened after Jim Irwin stepped down with Max McGee, he left the Bears for the Packers, in '98 or so, and he's been doing it with Larry McCarron ever since. So, and there's times though where he was still doing Chicago Bulls games.
I remember that,
like on TV. Then he's done college games and stuff like that. But he's kind of pared that down. He's just focused now on pretty much covering the Packers year round.
Oh, well, good for him. That's great.
He's a great guy. I mean, he's so well prepped, but I mean, not only is he one of the very best at calling football games, and NFL Films uses his stuff all the time, but he's a great colleague to have in the press box for sure.
I met him when I was working temporarily at another radio station, and I could not believe what a nice guy he was. Yeah, and his voice is just he's great at what he does. He's a true professional.
He's exactly what you expect. It's a big voice. He's a little bit taller, and just a gracious guy. A great representative of the team and the sport.
Yeah, very well said. So let's turn our attention to some playoff football here, Mike. We got the Packers and the Eagles this weekend. You're, as you mentioned, going to Philadelphia on Saturday. Jordan Love got an injury. It didn't seem serious in the Bears game, and I know Jalen Hurts has been dealing with a concussion. So where are we at with those two, the starting quarterbacks?
Love was rolling out and then scrambling sort of in the middle, and a Gervon Dexter, number 99, big defensive lineman from the Bears, was wrapping up on him, and Jordan went down and landed on his throwing arm, his right arm, on the elbow. and you saw them working on him on the sidelines. He had the coat on, and all of a sudden Malik Willis, the backup, is warming up, and then Malik took over.
Yeah.
And then during halftime, you saw Jordan throwing the ball just half speed, though. I mean, people were tweeting out, "Oh, look, Love is coming back." No, he couldn't. He couldn't grip the ball. And yesterday, talking to him, I said, "Essentially, you banged your funny bone," and he said, "Yep." And it wasn't very funny. Nope. Nope. And he, we kind of asked him to go into detail. He goes, "Yep. No, I'll be right. Yep." He did not want to give anything to the Eagles about it.
Sure.
He was limited in practice yesterday. I think he was full participant today. I saw him throwing some passes today, and I thought, he's going to play. But he's got some. He's full participation this afternoon. It left him where, especially like at his pinky finger, he couldn't finish. It felt numb, and you want all those digits, wrapped
Sure.
around the Duke, to make sure you've got the control, especially when you get into colder weather. Same thing with the Eagles. It was back on December 22nd that Jalen Hurts, their starting quarterback, got banged around and suffered a concussion. He's also got a problem on his left hand with a finger, but he's been out a couple weeks now. He's getting through the concussion protocol. He was limited yesterday. He's full participation today, so he's going to make a go of it. His backup, the guy that they picked up from the Steelers, Kenny Pickett, he was filling in, and he cracked some ribs. So he's limited.
Really?
That's the backup there, yeah. So these guys, get banged around out there. But it'll be Jalen Hurts against Jordan Love, 3:30 Sunday afternoon from Philadelphia.
That should be a great game. It was interesting when you said, I remember seeing Love warming up again, and I saw, we all saw Malik Willis take that hit. Could Love have come back in if they really needed him to?
Yeah, LaFleur said that. They were thinking, they at that point, LaFleur made a look. This is at the end of the day a meaningless game. At the end of the day, his coaches have said, hey, he talked about what Washington and the Cowboys had done, which may have, if there was a slight chance the Packers could have gone from a 7th seed to a 6th seed. So they pretty much made the decision, like, let Love rest now. Let Malik finish out this game. But Malik Willis had jammed his thumb on that deep throw that he threw to Malik Heath, and, because he got tangled up with another player. So Willis has been kind of dealing with a thumb injury this week.
Okay. Why, Mike, it seems like Packer fans, a lot of people point the finger at LaFleur sometimes, and he's not perfect. I mean, no coach is, but I don't think you can blame that loss just on the coach, can you?
No, man, I'll tell you, one commentator I respect that I was talking to on his show, he goes, Matt LaFleur's a good coach. It says 6 years have gone by fast, right?
Yeah.
How many years was Andy Reid in Philadelphia, and he got to one Super Bowl, but lost to the Patriots? Like, is this like the next Andy Reid? I mean, is he or Tony Dungy? Is he going to have to go to another team to win a Super Bowl? I said, oh man, you just sent a chill down my back.
Yeah.
And so I'm telling you, there's going to be those kinds of questions and evaluations raised by the Packers GM, Brian Gutekunst, by the new CEO and president, Ed Policy. He's taken over. And, Ed's been there right along Mark Murphy's side. And Mark's like, yeah, sorry, buddy, here's welcome to the party.
Yeah.
Because, Dan Campbell and his GM, Brad, those guys have got the Lions rolling right now.
Right.
And just as a facility and a fan base, and the same thing over in Minnesota. And you have to keep up with these other franchises. And who knows if the Bears finally make some smart moves to support this rookie quarterback that they just drafted, who, by the way, made the difference in that game.
Yeah.
So today we talked to the Packers defensive coordinator, Jeff Hafley, says, yeah, my bad. We had a miscommunication. We were not in the right defense. Okay, we were not in a defense that was designed to have two safeties way deep and guys trying to push people out of the sidelines. That's not the defense that I called. We had a miscommunication. And as for Caleb Williams, he's in the huddle, and he tells DJ Moore, because LaFleur mistakenly called a timeout with 15 seconds left, rather than just let the Bears run out of time and frantic. So with that timeout, Caleb Williams is in the huddle. He says to DJ Moore, if they play you inside, then go on a go route, okay, and I'll hit you deep. If they try and keep you from going to the sidelines, then take a little glance route, a little slant, which is what he took, and I'll throw it over the middle. And he says, and if we complete to DJ, he says to the rest of the huddle, we're going to bounce it and clock it, okay? So run up to the line because we're going to try and save some time. And that's exactly what they did. They lined up. DJ Moore saw that they were going to try and keep him from the sideline, and they had all that space over the middle. So he just looked in, threw him a ball, picked up about 12, 13 yards, got into field goal range, 51 yards, and then Caleb was able to run for the line, spike it, 2 seconds left. I mean, it's like an Aaron Rodgers 2-minute drill, you know. This kid pulled off, and they completed the field goal.
For once, Caleb Williams' own team didn't work against him.
Yeah.
Well, I got to tell you, and the reason I brought up LaFleur is because I see the standard here in Wisconsin for Matt LaFleur and the coaches Holmgren, and Mike McCarthy, and they've won Super Bowls. There's a high standard here, whereas in Chicago, it's we've got a great culture, even though they're 4-12. Like, that doesn't fly here in Green Bay.
No, and some people thought that LaFleur has gotten like too angry in some of these games and flying around and yelling at the rest and stuff like that. And my reply to them is, look at the two statues out in front.
Yeah,
Lambeau and Lombardi. There was nobody more grumpier than those two dudes, and they built statues for him.
He's got big shoes to fill. All right, Mike Clemens is my guest. He is our Civic Media Sports Authority. We're talking Packers and playoffs. And who knows? Maybe we'll get into some Bucks, too. We'll have more with Mike after a very short break. This is Pete Schwaba and Nightlight on the Civic Media Radio Network.
Open up your heart, let's come together. Use a little more, and we will make it work out better.
To the talk of Green Bay, WGBW, home for the Todd Allball Show.
I'm Dan Schaefer. Let's recombobulate. The beginning of the year means a new session for the Wisconsin State Legislature. Members of the State Senate and State Assembly were sworn into office on Monday, January 6th. There are a lot of new faces in that group, with 6 new members in the State Senate and 31 new representatives in the State Assembly. While Republicans will remain in the majority, that majority is now the smallest it has been in more than a decade. The days of the GOP's supermajority are over. After last year's elections under new, fairer maps, we'll see if those smaller majorities lead to more compromise in a legislature that's been dominated by the right for nearly 15 years. Just a handful of seats make the difference now between a Republican and Democratic majority, and there are many more opportunities now to bring accountability to legislators, especially those in competitive districts. And in a healthy democracy, that's the way things should be.
Find all of Dan's work at the Recombobulation Area and on our website at civicmedia.us.
You want to feel important.
You want to be part of something bigger, something that matters and can help change things.
You want to feel like you belong.
We know. We felt that way too. And that's why we did something about it.
We aren't just Army National Guard soldiers.
We are normal people just like you. But our part-time service in the Army National Guard means we get to be more.
When our communities are in need, we get the chance to stand up and do something about it.
We get to serve in our own region and help the people we call neighbors.
From the lakeshores of Ohio, Michigan, Wisconsin, and Minnesota,
the fertile fields of Indiana, Illinois, and Iowa, to the wide open plains of North and South Dakota,
we are here for our hometowns.
And together, we can make a difference. Take on your legacy. Visit NationalGuard.com to find out more.
How hard is it to recapture that feeling? At least there was a vibe down the stretch last year of nothing to lose, just playing.
I hate the comparison, guys. I mean, we've got a confident group, but we know it's going to be a great challenge. That's part of the fun. I don't think anything in life that's worth doing is without challenge. And so you got to embrace that and attack it head on and control the things that are fully within your control. And I never like to compare. I think every year is a little bit different. There's different people on the team.
It's the voice of Coach LaFleur. We have Mike Clemens here with us tonight on Night Light. Always fun to talk to Mike. We're getting some inside scoop here on the Packers as they head to Philadelphia this weekend for the playoffs. Mike, we just heard the coach. We were just talking about him before that. The Bears' loss, like you said before, is a meaningless loss. But coming on the heel, like given that long streak ended, will it have any carryover as the Packers head into the playoffs and head to Philadelphia?
Well, so let me ask you this, Pete. When you watch the games and you've watched what's happened this season and you think about where the Packers wound up a year ago at this time, have you thought that this Packers team is a Super Bowl bound team this year?
To be honest, no, but I think we talked about earlier in the week, Conrad and I were talking about how back when they did win the Super Bowl, it was a 2010, I didn't think they were then either. And I feel like, they did not have a great division record. They don't seem like a great team, but they seem capable of good things. I know that's not much of an answer, but.
Well, they were ascending each year when Aaron Rodgers took over to the point where they did get to 2010. And I'll tell you, in training camp, it looked like a Super Bowl roster. But then they had 15 guys go on IR, including like Jermichael Finley and all that. 15 starters go down, and they still, and McCarthy, talked about that when they were handing out the rings. Like, we went through 73 players this year to win that Super Bowl 14 years ago against the Steelers. Do you realize, that if a baby was born the last time the Packers won the Super Bowl, they'd be working on their temps for their driver's license at this point? It's been a long time, man. So my answer is this, is that last year you just wanted to see, okay, who's Jordan Love, and have they made the right decision moving on from Aaron Rodgers? And then you get to a point where you have a 4-game losing streak and you're 3-6 and saying, the training wheels, right? But then they get hot. And so last spring, when people kept on asking me, well, you think, Jordan Love, he's going to get paid, huh? I mean, do you think he's worth $250 million? And I said, yeah, but understand this. All those practices I saw of him, and like the one year where Rodgers sort of held out and was, ticked off and didn't report until training camp and all that stuff, I saw all those practices. And you can't duplicate Aaron Rodgers as an accurate passer. You can't. Right. It's just not going to happen. So, you got to keep that part in mind. And the other thing is that the people got so excited a year ago at this time of what Jordan Love and those guys did against the Dallas Cowboys. I mean, they wrecked the Cowboys. Yeah. The Cowboys haven't been the same since they lost that game to the Packers. Lost all these home games this past year at AT&T Stadium. I said Jordan Love was in the zone last December and January. He just was. He got to a point, it's like, to hell with it. He just started chucking it, and it was landing, and he was in a rhythm. I said, I would expect kind of a sophomore slump. Trying to repeat that. Defensive coordinators know more about him. Teams will be better prepared, blah, blah, blah. And sure enough, they play the Eagles in Brazil. He gets hurt with the knee injury. That he misses 2 games. It bothered him for the next 6 or 7 weeks, I'm sure. Then he has a groin injury. So he's played through injuries. And then their offense has changed. I mean, somewhere mid-season, it became the Josh Jacobs show, the running back.
Interesting.
But it seems... And as he was struggling with that leg injury, Love was throwing a pick a week. At one point, he was like leading in the NFL. Mm-hmm. So then he had to change that and say, I've got to be more careful with the football. And at the end of the day, he's not getting these chunk plays. He's not getting those plays like they were getting a year ago, where it seemed like LaFleur could scheme these guys, and you turn around and go, oh, my God, there's Luke Musgrave wide open. Oh, here's Jordan Love. He's found him. Boom, 40-yard gain. We're not seeing those plays. And why it's not happening, I'm not sure. But I asked this question today of the offensive coordinator, because they have brought in James Campen, longtime offensive line coach of the Packers, Brett Favre center. They've brought in Robert Saleh, former head coach of the Jets, the defense coordinator of the 49ers, best friend of Matt LaFleur, and Luke Getsy, who'd been a longtime position coach here and then offensive coordinator for the Bears and Raiders. They keep bringing in these consultants to do what? Fix the offense. So if you win the coin toss on Sunday and you're Matt LaFleur, you're supposed to put your best squad out there to start a game. Is it defense or is it offense? And if it's offense and you're at policy, you say, what's the long-term picture here?
Wow. That is some in-depth. That's great, Mike. That's great stuff. So, I mean, what is your take? How do you feel, having said all that, do you feel like they're in a good place? They have a good vibe going in? Or are they, I mean, they got a tough road because if they win, they play Detroit. Where do you think their headspace is?
I think Matt LaFleur fixed the defense when he brought in Jeff Hafley. They're in the top 10 now.
Yeah.
What's next?
Mike.
Maybe he needs to bring in a new offensive coordinator.
Yeah. We have about a minute left. More importantly than anything, I need to ask you, because you're the one who alerted us to this last week. Craig T. Nelson sang the national anthem, star of the movie Green and Gold. We're going to have the director on the show. We're very excited about that. But how do you think he did?
I thought of that as I was listening to him. I thought, what's Pete going to ask me about this? And the word that came to mind as he was about, and the Rockets' red glare. When he got to that point, I thought, it's respectable. It's respectable. He's a baritone. He's an 80-year-old man out there, and it's 15
freezing
degrees.
Cold. Yeah.
Yeah. It was respectable.
I would
Everybody
agree with
knows
you.
who he is, so it's okay. He's not going to win, American Idol anytime soon.
Not with that attitude, Mike.
No. But, yeah, and have you seen this Green and Gold movie yet? I haven't.
I have not. I've been reading about it
last weekend, and I was too busy doing football stuff.
Yeah, they have a really kind of up-and-coming actor in the lead, Brandon I can't remember his last. It's Scannell or something like that, but he's in the show 1923, the Taylor Sheridan Show. Really good actor, and obviously they have Craig Nelson, Mr. Incredible. It sounds great, and the director is from the UP. He lived or grew up a half hour from where I live right now, so we're excited to talk to him, and I'll keep you posted on what I find out, and I hope you do the same.
Looking forward to it.
Yeah.
Looking forward to it.
All right, thanks so much, Mike. Safe travels, buddy, and hopefully
Thanks,
we'll
Pete.
talk to you next week. Okay, that's Mike
Thanks,
Clemens. Civic Media, Sports Authority, and should be interesting to see what happens this weekend. Conrad, prediction?
Packers by 1 million.
That is some serious journalistic integrity there. All right, we're going to be back to talk some poetry with our friend James Roberts, who will join us after Civic Media's award-winning news team keeps you informed. This is Pete Schwaba and Nightlight on the Civic Media Radio Network.
To the talk of Green Bay, WGBW, home for Matt Nair on Air.
Enjoying this local program? Find the complete Civic Media lineup at civicmedia.us or the Civic Media app.
For 97.9 WGBW News, I'm Lisa Hale. 2 statewide races will be decided on the spring ballot in April. The first is Wisconsin Supreme Court. Liberal Justice Ann Walsh Bradley is retiring. The court has a 4-3 majority right now, which means this race will determine the balance of the court. Supreme Court justices are technically nonpartisan. The candidates are liberal-leaning Susan Crawford, a Dane County judge who has Walsh Bradley's endorsement, and Brad Schimmel, a Waukesha County judge who served as the state attorney general. The second race Wisconsin voters will decide is for superintendent of the Department of Public Instruction. 3 people are vying for that position. Starting with incumbent Jill Underley, then there's superintendent of Sauk Prairie Schools Jeff Wright, and former teacher and education consultant Brittany Kinzer. There will be a primary in February to narrow that field down to 2 candidates. The spring election will be on April 1st. Thanks to a partnership between the City of Appleton Public Health Department and Mother's Milk Bank of the Western Great Lakes, lactating mothers in the Fox Cities have a closer location to donate their breast milk. The Milk Depot, as it's called, is a joint effort to increase access for approved donors and families in the area to donate life-saving critical nutrition for pediatric patients in need. Amanda Hatch, a public health nurse with the City of Appleton, said previously the nearest drop-off point for donors donors was in Green Bay or Oshkosh. Individuals interested in donating through Milk Bank WGL can visit the website to apply. From local news to what's going on around the state, Civic Media's mission is to bring you real news and great conversation. I'm Lisa Hale, 97.9 WGBW News. For news anytime, log on to WGBW.FM.
On your entertainment beat, I'm Pete Schwaba. The effect of the fires in Los Angeles have been devastating. The ultimate impact on the entertainment business remains to be seen, but two notable premieres were canceled due to the fires, including Universal's Wolfman, which was scheduled to have its premiere at the TCL Chinese Theater Tuesday night. Jennifer Lopez's Unstoppable premiere was also canceled Tuesday night. There is no word on whether or not the events will be rescheduled. Wolfman is set to hit theaters on Martin Luther King Day weekend. Matthew Perry has managed to stay in the news fairly often following his mysterious death in 2023. His friend's colleague Lisa Kudrow made news the other day when she appeared on the Drew Barrymore show and told Barrymore that Perry gave her the famous Friends cookie jar from the set as a parting gift after the last episode. Kudrow added that Perry left a note in the cookie jar that she only recently discovered after his death. It is unclear why Kudrow checked the cookie jar after all these years. Maybe a serious case of the munchies. For more showbiz fun, tune in to Night Light with me, Pete Schwaba, weeknights from 6 to 8 p.m. on the Civic Media Radio Network.
This is your local Civic Media radio station. Want to hear even more? Anytime? Find all of it at civicmedia.us.
I'm meteorologist Mace Michaels. Cloudy tonight with scattered flurries and snow showers. Lows upper teens. A mix of sun and clouds for tomorrow. Highs upper 20s. Dry Saturday, more snow possible late Saturday night and Sunday. Weekend highs in the mid to upper 20s. Currently it's 26.
Max Inc. on Civic Media with Mike and Wendy from Sunspot.
Can you imagine the mosh pit on the bridge that could happen?
Oh, well, that's how the original series was when they moved the camera. Whenever it's like the red alert. Right.
Yeah.
That was the mosh pit.
Yeah. And everybody had to fake
right. Lean left, lean right. Yeah.
Join us for all the fun with Max Inc. on Saturday nights, 6 to midnight, across the Civic Media Radio Network and on the Civic Media app.
Hey, it's John Mino.
And Jim Schmidt from Mino and the Mayor.
Want to stay in the loop with all things Northeast Wisconsin? Sign up for the WGBW weekly newsletter.
Get the latest local stories, updates on the weather, and a special feature from our Mino and the Mayor podcast.
It's your one-stop shop for real news and great conversation in Northeast Wisconsin.
Log on to WGBW.FM today and get signed up.
Real news, great conversation. Sign up today at WGBW.FM/newsletter. Earl Ingram.
Join me on the next show. We'll
So-called midlife guidance for women, kids leaving the home, body shifts, career stalling. That is Bridget's favorite podcast, My So-Called Midlife. I've never heard of that one. Thank you, Bridget. That's our question of the night. Still some time if you want to get in on the fun. What is your favorite podcast? There seems to be a shift. More and more people listening to podcasts and have been for a while. I have been late to the party there, so I'm just curious as to what people are listening to. Steady Eddie chimes in from the 608. Always fun to hear from Steady Eddie. He says, Pete, I must admit I miss Pat Sajak on Wheel of Fortune. He hosted from 1981 to 2024. So, yeah, Gaffigan said 2 decades. That's actually 40 years. That's insane. 40 plus years. Eddie continues, that's a long time. It makes me realize how old you're getting, Pete. Thank you, Eddie. Oh, man. Usually I only tune in for the final big money spin at the end of the show. I have the sound muted on my TV while I listen to Nightlight with Pete Schwaba on my radio, Civic Media, 6 to 8 weeknights. Thank you for the plug, Eddie, and thank you for your allegiance. He says, my day is made when I solve the final puzzle and the contestant can't get it no matter how loud I shout the correct answer at my television. A poem by Steadfast Edward. You see what he did there? He pulled it all together, Conrad.
Yeah, he did.
That was like a synopsis of the whole show. But here's his poem. He says, Jim Gaffigan, he makes me laugh again and again and again. Thanks, Jim Gaff, again. Steady, buy a vowel, get a clue, Eddie. Yeah. Thank you, Steady Eddie. That's one of his best. That was beautiful.
Tearing up over here.
Fantastic. Conrad is actually crying. All right, we are going to turn our attention to, we've talked movies, we've talked sports. Now we've already moved into poetry, I guess. Thank you to Steady Eddie. But my next guest has been on the show before, probably about a year ago, when this great poetry event was happening previously. But it is right around the corner again. So it is my pleasure to welcome the Vice President for the Wisconsin Fellowship of Poets. Joining me now on Nightlight is poet James Roberts. Hi, James.
Well, hello, Pete. Thank you for taking the risk of having me back on the show again.
The risk? Are you contagious with something? I don't think there's a risk, James. It's
No,
great to have you.
But I do have a jingle to start out with, just for you.
Lay it on me, Stretch.
More vociferous than Fred Flintstone's Yabba Dabba do. More mysterious than the caves of Ali Baba. More profuse than the common wildflower draba. It's Nightlight with Pete Schwaba.
Conrad, we are so clipping that. That was beautiful. Thank you, James. That's so great. It's good to have you back on the show, buddy. It's been about a year. Yeah. So how are you? How are things going?
Very busy right now, getting things set up for the 2025 Winter Festival of Poetry, which is the 8-week-long series of poetry readings held here in Madison on Sunday afternoons, usually around 2 o'clock.
Okay.
And this year we're at 2 different locations. There, we're going to start out at the Arts and Literature Laboratory, where we've been for the past 3 years.
Okay.
And then we're going to move to Madison's premier jazz club, the Cafe Coda, for the final 4 weeks, which should be a lot of fun.
Wow. That's what was the first venue you said, James? The Arts and Literature Building?
The Arts and Literature Laboratory.
Laboratory. Is that
Yeah.
on the UW campus, or where is that?
No, that is 111 South Livingston Street. It's right across from the Sylvie.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
Entertainment venue.
Nice. All right, well, let's get into the Winter Festival of Poetry a little more. But first, I want to ask you, for those listening who may not know a lot about poetry, and I was an English major myself years and years ago. I read a lot of poetry back then. I'm not as versed in it now as I was 30 years ago. But as you're the regional vice president, how do you get people interested in poetry again? You have people that are never going to go away. It has a following. It has fans. Do you want to grow? Is your goal to grow and have more interest in poetry? And if so, how do you do that?
Oh, that's always the goal. And basically, that's part of our mission statement with the Wisconsin Fellowship of Poets, which will be celebrating its 75th anniversary this June.
Wow.
It began in 1950, and we're going to have a big 3-day conference at the Concourse Hotel right here in Madison.
Fantastic. Wow.
And what we do is we go out and we try to get people interested in poetry by doing workshops, by doing readings, by having contests, poetry contests. And all of this can be part of your membership in the Wisconsin Fellowship of Poets.
Very nice. So that was a nice, very subtle plug you got in there, James. I have no doubt you write great poetry when you can sneak messages in like that. What is your job, James, as regional vice president? What does that entail exactly, other than putting the Winter Festival of Poetry on and recruiting future poets and workshops? What does your job entail?
You pretty much described it in a nutshell. It's basically to promote the growth of poetry. And sometimes in the most unexpected and odd places, like farmland poetry there. And like, especially on the college campus, we have a lot of what they call hip hop poetry or spoken word performance poetry.
Sure.
There. And I try to tap into that and do a lot of crossover between regular poets and the new generation.
That is smart right there. And what you just said is interesting. It has to evolve, right? Like movies do, like stage plays do, music, poetry too. So that's really interesting. So given what you just said, is the art form of poetry growing? Is there new interest all the time? Is it growing?
Oh, yes, I believe it is growing, especially since the pandemic, which even though it made a lot of people stay indoors and not go out and attend poetry readings, it also opened up the possibilities towards people podcasts of their poetry and expand to a wider audience. So yes, I think poetry is really going through a growth period right now.
And what about here in Wisconsin? Would you say, like compared to other states or regions, are there more regions where it is more popular? You just said farmers. I would say big cities typically might be more popular, but you just mentioned farmers.
Well, yes, it has expanded out into more rural areas. I know there is a movement within the state of Wisconsin where many of the smaller localities have their own poet laureates there, who are responsible for promoting poetry in those areas.
Yeah. That's interesting. All right, so where can people find out more information, James, about the Winter Festival of Poetry?
Well, the primary place is the Wisconsin Fellowship of Poets website, www.wfop.org. But you can also find it on the WFOP Facebook page. We also have a lot of the local media outlets. Isthmus just gave us a very nice write-up. And especially for this opening reading on Sunday, January 19th, we are featuring Madison's current poet laureate, Stephen Espada Dawson. And what Madison has done the past 3 years is they've had a youth poet laureate, normally a teenager in high school. And this year it's Justin Fesque Russell, who's just a recent graduate and is already enrolled at the UW-Madison in the First Wave Spoken Word Scholarship Program.
Oh, very nice.
Yeah.
It sounds like you're pretty good at your job, James. That's what I'm drawing from this.
Well, I've been doing it since 2010, so I've had a lot of experience, a lot of little bumps along the way, but also a lot of fun. And what I try to do to make it more fun for not only the general public, but also for the poets is I come up with a different theme for each year. Like 2 years ago, the theme was Wisconsin cheese. So we featured a different variety of cheese on each of the 8 Sundays.
Wow.
And last year, it was again Wisconsin, the circus. And this year, we are going around the world in a passport to poetry.
Oh, I like that.
Where we are featuring 8 very popular travel destinations: London, Paris, Rome, Cairo, Delhi, Tokyo, Rio, and the Bahamas.
Oh, my goodness. That sounds better than the cheese poetry, just because I'm lactose intolerant. But I think my guest is James Roberts. He is the regional director of the Wisconsin Fellowship of Poets, joining me here on Night Light for a few minutes tonight. And their big festival, the Winter Festival of Poetry, is January 19th. And is there a cost? Can people...
Yeah, the admission is free, though donations are encouraged.
Okay.
And the Winter Festival of Poetry will run on Sunday afternoons through March 9th. So we have 8 consecutive Sundays. And each Sunday, 6 poets will get up and read for about 10 to 12 minutes each.
That's pretty cool. And it's still live entertainment. I mean, I'm sure you get an array of poets that read different stuff. Some of it's probably somber. Some of it's probably has like a hip hop flair, like you said. Some of it's more dramatic or comedic. What's your favorite kind of stuff to listen to, James?
Well, I like it all pretty much. As long as it's sincere and it comes from the heart. There. And the fun part about putting this together is knowing what most of the poets write and then try to mix and match so that each week you will get a different variety of poets every Sunday.
Yeah. That's great. I'd like to do something now, if you're okay with this. I have one of my favorite poems is a poem called Dover Beach by Matthew Arnold.
Oh, yes, very familiar with it.
You're familiar with it. Okay, so I would like to I'm going to do my best to memorize or paraphrase the last 3 lines of the poem, which have always stayed in my head. And this is what I love about poetry. Like, I would write papers in college, and I remember a professor, the best feedback I got was, he said, I didn't look at it this way before, but I like your interpretation. And I thought that was a victory. So I'm going to give you the last 3 lines of Dover Beach, and I would love for you to kind of decipher it for me, if you would. Can we do that?
Okay, sure.
Okay. It's the last 3 lines. That's all I have memorized from over the years. And we are here as on a darkling plain, swept with confused alarms of struggle and flight, where ignorant armies clash by night.
Oh, yes. Very familiar with that.
Okay.
And yes, it definitely speaks not only to the times that Matthew Arnold was living in, but also to the times that we are currently living in. Yeah.
See, that's what the professor said. He said it was more of a war. And I interpreted it as 2 people trying to, that had a battlefield, a sexual or tense battlefield between them physically.
Well, that's interesting. Yeah.
That's just what came to me when I was 20 years old, and I was glad he didn't laugh me out of the classroom at least. He at least respected my opinion. And,
well, he respected the fact that you were 20 years old.
Right, didn't know what the hell I was talking about. We have about a minute left, James. I just want to ask you, how did you get into the poetry racket, if you can summarize that briefly?
Oh, that's easy. I had the hots for a girl in high school, and I wrote a poem for her.
Oh, man, that's probably the most age-old
And then I read
story.
it to her, and we've been friends ever since.
Oh, well, I hope you eventually get somewhere. I hope you get it out of the friend zone at some point, but even if you don't, it sounds like it was very successful. So.
Do we have time for a short poem?
Yeah, if you can stick around through a quick break, absolutely.
I can do that.
Okay, we'll do that. So James is going to read us something that he created, not something he paraphrased like I just did. He's got his own original content here. So we'll be right back to hear that and wrap things up on Nite Lite with Pete Schwaba on the Civic Media Radio Network.
And it breaks my heart when a teardrop falls. I wanna cry, cry, cry alone. When you're feeling blue, I'm waiting just for you. Someone's living for their loving. Someone's living for their loving.
The talk of Green Bay, WGBW. The Todd Alba Show.
Donald J. Trump has been officially certified the winner of the 2024 election the way that the Constitution dictates. You see how simple that is? There's a vote, you certify the results, democracy moves on. You might not like the results. The person I wanted to have elected didn't win, but that's the way democracy works. Unlike 4 years ago on January 6th, where rioters stormed the Capitol.
The Todd Alba Show. Weekdays noon till 2 on your local Civic Media radio station and on the app. The Maggie Dawn Show.
Here's what the WSJ had said after J6. This week has probably finished Donald Trump as a serious political figure. Boy, that hasn't aged well, has it?
No, not at all. In the Wall Street Journal. So after what they just said 4 years ago, Maggie, they couldn't bring it upon themselves to say that guy who did that shouldn't be anywhere near the White House again. Nope, couldn't do it.
The Maggie Dawn Show. Weekdays from 2 till 4 on your local Civic Media radio station and on the Civic Media app.
Are you prepared for an emergency or disaster? Because it's not a matter of if, but when. Don't find yourself saying,
when the storm rolls in, my time to find a pet-friendly evacuation center will have run out.
The scorching heat wave will leave me powerless to cool my insulin.
I'll face a hurricane without meds. Now that's a tough pill to swallow.
Let's prepare so we all have a better story to tell. Get started at ready.gov/older adults. Brought to you by FEMA and the Ad Council.
You are listening to your local Civic Media radio station on air. Thank you. Did you know we are always streaming on TuneIn and the Civic Media app too? And if you miss a show or game, find it wherever you get your podcasts or on our website, civicmedia.us. Fear you may be missing out? We're always streaming on TuneIn and the Civic Media app. Enjoy listening live or catch up by finding the podcast at Civic.
From the 715, in answer to our question of the night, what is your favorite podcast? Kate from the 715 says Giggly Squad. I don't know Giggly Squad. I don't know podcast. That's the problem. Like I'm asking, they could be making stuff up and sending it in, but Giggly Squad is a cool title. Kate also says Murder with My Husband. I'm guessing that's a true crime podcast or some type of confession. And she continues saying, You Can Sit With Us. Do you know any of those, Conrad?
No.
I don't know those either. Thank you, Kate, though, for the suggestions. Those are great. And I'm actually, most of the podcasts I've heard tonight, I'm not familiar with. So that's kind of the whole point of the exercise. We have a few more minutes here with our friend James Roberts. He is the regional vice president of the Wisconsin Fellowship of Poets. They have a great event coming up January 19th, Sunday afternoon. James, you said you wanted to read something. It's coming back to me. I think you did this last year, too. You read some of your original works.
Yeah.
And, I'm glad you asked that because I really enjoyed it, and I'm glad you have something to share this year, too. So we'd love to hear whatever you have.
Okay, well, this poem is called A Golden Shovel. And a golden shovel poem means that the last word in every line, when read downward, comprises a famous saying.
Huh.
The most famous example would be, now is the time for all good men. So, so I'm going to slightly emphasize the proper words. And then the fun part is having people guess what the phrase is.
Okay.
Okay,
Let's
this
do it.
poem is called Apartment Hunting.
Okay.
We scan the adverts for sublets, not knowing if any of them do have what we want. It's all for the best that we split up. No one has time these days to commit to being together. A warp of technology threatens to destroy us again.
Okay. I think I missed a word, but I'm going to guess. Sublets want best again? Did I do that wrong?
I'll do it one more time very quickly.
Okay.
We
All right.
scan the adverts for sublets, not knowing if any of them do have what we want. It's all for the best that we split up. No one has time these days to commit to being together. A warp of technology threatens to destroy us again.
Sublets do want the best. I'm going to need some help. Sorry.
Okay. Let's do the time warp again.
Oh, nice. I feel like I let you down, James.
Well, you're not the first, Pete. But there have been a few that have gotten it because they're Rocky Horror fans like me.
I just saw that show 2 years ago, too, at our local community theater. James, thank you so much. I hope we can do this again. We don't have to wait a year either next time. We'd love to have you back sometime soon.
Thank you, Pete. Yeah, let's stay in touch, and I'll let you know what's going on in the poetry world.
Please do. Good luck with the event on the 19th. It's the Winter Festival of Poetry. Thank you very much, James Robert. Have a great night.
You too, Pete.
Okay. All right. Thank you to all my guests. Mike Clemens, Greg Bach, James Roberts. Thank you for your texts. I've learned about podcasts I had no idea existed. And, if I could, here's the problem, Conrad, is I leave here at night, and I did write down Greg's movie suggestion.
Yeah, it seemed interesting.
It did. And I'm going to write down these podcasts, but oftentimes I'll jot down what I want to remember on these papers. And guess what I do with the papers before I leave? I ball them up and I toss them. So I learn nothing from
You're just trying to hoop back there.
I'm just trying to hoop. We were going to get to Badger basketball with Mike, but we ran out of time. They have Minnesota tomorrow night. They're 12-3.
Yep.
And Respectable, certainly.
Yeah, no, definitely respectable. And the Big Ten this year is looking really good. So they just beat Rutgers, which has one of the highest prospects, Ace Bailey, and he did not play well against the Badgers. So that means we could have some good defense.
Okay, I like that. So what? And is there a score? I know that we're 5 days of football now. You said between college and pro.
Did it start yet? I actually had...
I thought 6:30 it started.
Okay, it is 10-0 Penn State.
Oh, God. I'm sorry. I don't like Penn State.
I agree. I don't like Penn State either.
They're a hateable program with the Joe Paterno stuff and now this coach that wouldn't answer questions about so much inappropriate stuff happened there again. And they're acting like they don't have to. It's just, they're awful. So I will cheer. I'll cheer for an SEC team over Penn State. And I'm a Big Ten guy first, honestly.
Yeah.
And they're beating Notre Dame 10-0. All right, well, what are you going to do? So I want to finish the show with this. Andrew Garfield, fine actor, Spider-Man.
Yeah.
He has to call press conferences basically to say he's not doing a movie. He did it with Scorsese now. There were rumors that they wanted him back in the Spider-Man franchise to appear in something with Tom Holland. He didn't want to do it. I guess I don't have my finger on the pulse. Is he in high demand all over the place? He's a good actor, but like he's not, Leo DiCaprio, is he?
What I will say is there was a while where he didn't say he wanted to do any Spider-Man after the Amazing Spider-Man he did. And he turned out he did it again, with Tom Holland, Tobey Maguire. So there's a chance he could still return after saying no.
Okay.
But I think he does a really fine job of the Amazing Spider-Man, what he played.
Yeah.
I thought it was one of my favorite Spider-Mans he played in the first one there. So
that's how, I think he's a good actor, but I just don't understand, I heard him say that too. I think it's weird when they bring 3 Spider-Mans together.
Yeah.
It's so cute and what the heck? I want a badass superhero.
I loved it. I'm sorry. I loved it.
You don't have to.
I'm a big Spider-Man guy, so that was amazing for me. I was screaming in the movie theater.
That's wow. I would pay to see that. All right. That's a great place to end the show tonight. We'll be back tomorrow night. Paige McKenna will be here, ladies and gentlemen. She's got a great documentary about, I want to say gentlemen's clubs, but Paige will be here tomorrow in studio talking about her documentary Gold. And Lisa Hale, the host of New Wisco Weekend, will be here to talk about what she has coming up this weekend. That's a fun show tomorrow night. You don't want to miss it. So please come back and join us again. We'd love to have you here at Night Light every night. I'm Pete Schwaba on behalf of the lovable producer Conrad. Good night, Wisconsin.